So as we saw in the latest blog post for Call of Duty Black Ops 6, we will be getting a returning Iconic SMG in DLC 2. Now, it hasn't been fully confirmed what this could be, however it's fair to say that the community have had a few theories about it. So for today's video I thought we'd go through and rank what I think are the top 5 most iconic SMGs in Call of Duty Zombies. Now just as a disclaimer on this, when I say iconic, I don't necessarily mean the best performing, right? Those are two different things. However, more often than not, something that's iconic is generally pretty good in the game. So coming in at our number 5 spot, we have the AK-74U, which originally featured in Black Ops 1 Zombies on King of the Toten. If you went that alley route, you no doubt saw it as the wall weapon there. Now, when looking this up, I was really surprised about how many games the AK-74U is actually featured in. Not only is it in Black Ops 1, it's also in Black Ops 2, it came into Black Ops 3 as well with Chronicles and those various gun DLCs which we had throughout the seasons, and then I believe it's also in Cold War, however I haven't played it so I don't know from first-hand experience. Now I really think part of that longevity is what makes it into this top 5 list, the fact that you can constantly rely on this weapon in a multitude of games to get you a solid amount of points. Obviously with the classic point system in Black Ops 1, 2 and 3, using SMGs was beneficial, so something like an AK-74U would be good for sort of the lower to mid tier rounds. And as we mentioned with the AK-74U specifically, it is obviously a wall weapon, so it's always accessible across a multitude of maps. Now when it comes to the Pack-a-Punch version, the AK-74FU2, which is a fantastic name in its own right, it is significantly better. Obviously the ammo increases. It seems that the ammo potential has increased throughout the games. You seem to get more stock ammo as you go through, which is brilliant because in the Black Ops 1 days, ammo was a big concern with guns like the AK-74U. So it's good to see a weapon like that get buffs as the games have got progressively more different. All in all though, the AK-74U is an incredibly solid gun. It's definitely not one that I feel like you'd sought after more so than the other SMGs on this list, but it's a very solid option for those early rounds. Now coming in at our number 4 spot, we have the Thompson, which was initially in World at War Zombies, actually available in the first ever map, Nukta and Toten. Now, this SMG to me is a really solid all-rounder. Once again, it's available on the wall, and is definitely one of the first things you would pick up if you're playing Nukt or a Doris. Now, with this being one of the earliest SMGs that we've ever been able to access in Zombies, to me it just screams iconicism from that alone. It did make a return in Black Ops 1 Zombies with the Resurrection DLC that obviously had all of the World at War maps in it, but other than that, I don't believe we've actually seen it in Zombies, at least in a Treyarch title. I know in Black Ops 6 you've got that weird C9 sort of version which is kind of built to represent a Thompson, but it's not actually the official gun. Now when you do Pack-a-Punch the Thompson on Doris, it does become the Gibson-matic, and it is a very solid option up until sort of the mid-teens to sort of early doors of 20s in that game. However, the Thompson is not the best sort of Tommy gun that we have on our list today, because coming in at the number 3 spot we have the M1927. Now this originally released on Black Ops 2 Zombies on my favourite map of all time, Mob of the Dead. Now to me this weapon is just absolutely fantastic. Obviously a big bonus of it is the fact that you have a 50 round drum mag and a shed load of ammo in your reserve, so you can keep this for a long time, and on a map like Mob of the Dead, if you are a bit of a noob like myself, it's nice to have guns with lots of ammo that are very solid from the get-go. Much like the other 2 weapons we've mentioned on this list, the M1927 is available on the wall for 1500 points, which is a bit more expensive for an SMG, however it is way worth that price. Now this weapon did make a return in Black Ops 3 Zombies on the map Revelations, where again it was fantastic. Only difference was it was available on the wall, however you had to do a significant part of the Easter egg to get it. However, it was available in the box as well, so either way you can still access the gun quite nicely. It was also in Black Ops 4 on Blood of the Dead, but we ain't talking about that shit game. Now when you Pack-a-Punch the M1927, you will either get the Speak Easy or the Untouchable, depending on which game you are playing, and again this thing just becomes an absolute beast. The ammo capacity goes tenfold, I believe you have 100 rounds in the mag, which is fantastic, and on maps such as your Mob of the Dead, your Origins and your Revelations, there's a lot of boss zombies on those maps, so being able to dump a significant amount of bullets into all of those enemies is very beneficial. Also, just as a side note, I do think that the M1927 is probably the most fitting gun to a map I've seen when it comes to Mob of the Dead, obviously with that whole mob theme that they've got going on. I just feel like it fits it perfectly, and honestly, when you play Mobile Dead, you kind of want the gun personally just for that reason. Anyway, coming in at our number 2 spot, we have the MP40, which is again a gun that has spanned across a multitude of games in its lifetime. It started in World at War as a box weapon, and again it was an incredibly solid gun on that game. However, to me, I think its most iconic points come in the later series, so I'm thinking Kino de Toten Black Ops 1, right? That war weapon is what you always go for. At least I do personally. And I think its iconicism and just the being of a zombie staple was only enhanced when it featured in Black Ops 2's version of Origins. Again, it was right in the centre of the map, on a map which is, generally speaking, one of the most difficult, and it's a reliable gun. It will get you through rounds. You can take on the Panzer with it on round 8 when that becomes an issue. It did also feature in Black Ops 3 and Zombies Chronicles, and I was actually surprised by its inclusion, bearing in mind beforehand you had the HG40 within Black Ops 3. I feel like that really just shows you how iconic the MP40 itself is, the fact that you literally had a futuristic carbon copy of it, yet Treyarch thought, nah, we're going to get the original one for Zombies Chronicles. I feel like that really cements it as an absolute great of the Zombies game mode. When Pack-a-Punch, the MP40 does become the Afterburner, which again is an incredibly solid SMG to have by your side. Now, the only major drawback I can think of when it comes to the MP40 is the actual ammo capacity that it has. Don't get me wrong, 64 in the mag is very good, but in terms of the reserve amount, it is very low. Again, particularly on Black Ops 1, but that is just a common issue with the game itself. Now, before we get into that number 1 spot, because there are so many SMGs across all of the Call of Duty Zombies that we've had, we have got a couple of honourable mentions. So the first one I'd want to shout out is the Type 100, or the 1001 Samurais once it's Pack-a-Punched. Now, to me, this is a real unsung hero of World at War Zombies. Genuinely, again, another war weapon. It was fantastic. However, it was incredibly overshadowed by the likes of the Thompson and the MP40, which were better weapons. However, to me, this gun elevated its iconicism by its sister version, the Bootlegger, being a war weapon available in, honestly, one of the greatest maps of all time, Shadows of Evil on Black Ops 3. Now, I know these are technically different weapons, but realistically they are the same thing, right? It's just a more updated version of it. And again, in the likes of Zombies Chronicles, it was featured because of that likeness. Now, when you Pack-a-Punch the Bootlegger, it becomes the Einstein, and again, it is one of those guns that you wouldn't necessarily look at immediately, generally speaking, just because every weapon in Black Ops 3 is incredible, but as a war weapon, it's a very solid option, and early doors of Black Ops 3, when people were learning how the game worked, it was an option that a lot of players would go for, particularly with it being available on the tram. Now, the second honourable mention I've got is the PDW-57 from Black Ops 2 Zombies. Now, to me, this is without doubt one of the most reasonable war weapons in terms of cost we've ever had. It only costs 1,000 points, and if you're getting it on Buried, you obviously get the points from the chalk that you have to draw to actually access the weapon, so it's essentially free. And when it actually comes to that Buried Easter egg, I would argue it is the best gun to use for that final sharpshooter step, because let's look at it, there is zero recoil with this thing. Now, when you Pack-a-Punch the PDW, it does become the Predicted Death Wish 57,000, and again, it's just very solid in terms of the ammo capacity and the damage output for it. Obviously, with Black Ops 2, you have Double Tap 2.0, which helps, but all in all, it's still an incredibly solid option. The only thing that kept it off of the main list is the fact that, unfortunately, at least to my knowledge, it does only appear in a couple of maps on Black Ops 2, so it's not exactly available throughout the zombie saga that we've experienced so far. So, coming in at our number 1 spot as the most iconic SMG in Call of Duty Zombies, it is, I'm sure you've already guessed it, the PPSH-41 from World at War Zombies. Now, this gun must go down in folklore for how ridiculously good it is, particularly in World at War. It is essentially a combination of an SMG with LMG damage and ammo capacity. It is without doubt the best gun on World at War Zombies, particularly when you Pack-a-Punch it to the Reaper, when, my god, this thing was genuinely scary how good it was. It literally doubled the ammo capacity, the damage was off the charts, and much like most of the SMGs, but particularly with the PPSH, there was zero recoil with it. Now, when it was announced in the trailer that the PPSH will be returning in Gorokrovi in DLC 3 for Black Ops 3, people went absolutely fucking nuts. There's compilations of people reacting like on the verge of tears that the gun is coming back. That is how sought after it was at that stage. Now, it did also feature in the Zombies Chronicles maps attached to Black Ops 3, and I believe it is also available via unlock in Cold War. I might be wrong on that. Again, I haven't played Cold War, but from what I've seen online, there is a way to actually unlock it into the game. Either way, based off of its sheer ability alone, it is definitely a gun which is world-renowned as the best SMG in Zombies, and ultimately the most iconic too. But what do you guys think? What do you guys reckon is the most iconic SMG in Call of Duty Zombies? What do you guys think we're going to get in Black Ops 6 DLC 2? Realistically, if it isn't one of the ones I've listed, I will be very surprised. However, I could be wrong. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. If you are new here and you have enjoyed, please do consider subscribing, as it really does help out the channel massively. And I am thinking of doing more top 5 videos in the future, so if that is something you've enjoyed, again, let me know down below. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you see you in another video sometime soon.